Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Chef Masterclass series on the topic Streamlining Infrastructure Management using Chef Attributes. If you can see the presentation screen and if you can hear my voice clearly, please confirm through the chat panel and we'd be happy to get started. Let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Anugrah Benjamin. I work as a product marketing manager at Progress Chef. I'll be one of the speakers today. Over to you, Sato.
Hey everyone, I hope all of you can hear me as well. I am Sarthak and I work in Progress Chef as a technical product marketing specialist. So if everyone's ready, we can jump into the actual webinar itself. So this webinar, the agenda is going to be just learning about attributes as much as possible. We're going to start from 101 and we'll have a few technical demos to dive a little deeper as well. I'll start off with what attributes are and how you can use them. And once the basics of the theory is in place, we'll directly jump into setting up your attributes with your workstation, have three technical demos, which will sort of, show the different capabilities of attributes in itself. And towards the end of that, we also have some latest news that exciting news that we would like to inform you guys about as well. So stay tuned for that. So I'll start with what attributes are, in case you guys haven't already used or have never heard about this term. I'll be going from the very basics. So attributes are a powerful feature of Chef that basically allows for flexible and customizable infrastructure management. As the name suggests, it's pretty straight up. It just helps you for flexible, customizable infrastructure management. So they are used to make your Chef cookbooks more configurable. They allow you to override the default values that your cookbooks already are preset in. So what this does, it makes it very easy to enforce organization rules or customize your cookbooks for your specific nodes or environments, whatever it might be, right? To sort of understand this better, let me give you an example. So take an example, consider a cookbook that you have, which has hard-coded values for installation steps that are not compatible with your organization rules. So how do you solve this? You can either patch the cookbook or, worst case, you have to rewrite the whole thing. Both of these options require significant manual effort, and that's no secret. And as you guys know, we are all about automating and reducing manual effort as much as we can. So this is where attributes comes in, where attributes, they contribute to make a much simpler and efficient solution by just enabling a person or the user to customize their cookbooks without having to hard code the values. So by superimposing the values that fit better in your scenario, in this case was the example that I used was for an installation. If you can just superimpose those values that are required over the default values that are already there, this entire task of patching or rewriting the whole thing is a walk in the park now. So an attribute, again, continuing on what attributes really are. An attribute, think of attribute as a specific detail about a node. So one specific thing about that particular node is one attribute. And the attributes are used by the Chef infra client to understand these three things. The first being the current state of the node. So as it says, I don't have to explain it further. The current state of the node, what the state of the node was at the end of the previous Chef infra client, and what the state of the node should be at the end of the current Chef infra client run. So the past, present, and the future states of the node. This, like the Chef infra client, uses attributes to understand these three things. So how do you use attributes now? Attributes can be defined in these four ways majorly. You can either have a node saved on the Chef Infra server. This will be a use case that we are going to dive in later in the technical demos. You can either pass it via a JSON through the command line, or if you're aware of policy files, that is a really good way to define an attribute as well. Or you can directly have them on your cookbooks, your recipes. This is also something that I'll be diving into in the later technical demos that are coming up. So how do these work actually? During every Chef Infra client run, the Chef Infra client builds the attribute list using these four things. So the attribute passed using JSON on the command line, of course. And then the data about the node collected by OHI. So if you guys have never heard of this term OHI, if you've been using Chef for a while, OHI is a tool for collecting system configuration data, right? Your node information, your config system data, all of that. You use OHI to collect this information. So all in turn, it provides Chef Infra client to use it in cookbooks, all of this information. And Chef Infra client runs OHI at the start of every Chef Infra run. So every time you have a Chef Infra client run scheduled, it starts by collecting all of the information using OHI. So that's just like a quick crash course on what OHI was. Followed by the node object that was saved to the Chef Infra server at the end of the previous Chef Infra client run. So this was also something that was there in the last slide. It collects the data of how it was before, and then the rebuilt node object from the current Chef Infra client run after it is updated for changes to cookbooks, right? Or any attribute files, recipes, policy files, however you've done this, and updates it for the changes to the state of the node itself. So after the node object is rebuilt, all of the attributes are then compared, and then the node is updated based on attribute precedence. We'll go through the precedence list of the attributes as well. At the end of every Chef Infra client run, the node object that defines the current state of the node is then uploaded to the Chef Infra server. That is how the previous slide would make sense, right? It needs the present and the past of the Chef Infra client run state is already there. How it has gotten the information about the previous Chef Infra client run is after every Chef Infra client run is finished, it uploads the state of the node to the infra server. So it can be indexed for search as well. So setting up your workstation, this is sort of my segue to the technical demos. First, if for some reason you guys are still stuck by using Chef DK, please upgrade to workstation. Workstation is it bundles all of the Chef capabilities into one. And if you have your cookbook in check, we'll dive into the first demo. As I mentioned, what OHI was earlier, it's a tool for collecting system configuration data, which it then provides to the Chef Infra client to use it in cookbooks. So let me give you an example. If you go to my Automate UI, I can actually, let me sign in quickly. I can show you the list of all the attributes OHI collects, right? If I go to infrastructure and if I just go to this one, these are all of the attributes, the OHI attributes that I was talking about that have been collected. So it's a comprehensive list, everything about that node the Chef Infra client is getting from running OHI at the start of the run. Let me go to the terminal now. I have a cookbook called Basic Info, right? So in this cookbook, let me just show you how you can create a file to access all of the node information that was being collected by OHI. So here I'll have in my recipes, I have a recipe called info.rb. Let me quickly go in there. This, as you can see, it's a very straightforward, simple recipe. What it does is it creates a file called basic info. It will save it as the root directory. And in this file, I have populated these three attributes. I've collected the information from OHI and I've populated it with this, the host name of the node, the IP address, and the CPU, right? So with this in place, let me just run a local local chef client run. Sudo chef client ZR is what makes it a local run. And let me point to the recipe. So once I do that, let's see, the interface is starting, it runs it locally. You can see it creates the file, basic info. Now let's see where this file is, right? I'll go to my root directory. I see there has been a file, basic info, that has been created. Let me clear my screen so you guys can see it. So this file, if I do a cat, it tells me what it is populated with, the host name, the IP address, and the CPU, as it said. So this information you can call, like these OHI attributes you can use for many use cases. The one that I can think of top of my head is like you can, it makes sense if it's like a lot of machines. Obviously this I'll run it locally just for one machine. But if it was a fleet of thousands of machines, you can easily have all of the data of all of these machines in a single file. So it's useful regardless. Let me go back to the PPT. That was our first demo, just showing what OHI attributes are. Pretty straightforward. This is our first proper demo. I wouldn't consider the first demo a proper one. This is sort of like the example that I was telling you guys earlier. Let's consider two client nodes, right? One has Ubuntu 20.04 and let's say the other one has CentOS 7. So let's say we want to install Apache in both of these nodes, right? Without attributes, the way you do this is either you'll have two different recipes that you push to these clients and then they do the installation by hard coding the values of the package itself. Or you can have one recipe that you push to both of them with a simple if loop where it can determine what it's supposed to install. Now you know that Ubuntu requires an Apache 2 package, whereas the CentOS system will require an HTTPD package. I'm aware that CentOS is end of life now, but for the sake of this demo, we'll just go with that. The information or the code that I'll actually be showing, that can be scaled to any of the environments. So CentOS is just the example here. Let's jump back to our terminal. Let me navigate. Yes, so my cookbook demo attributes, let me just show you what I have populated in it already. If I go to my recipe, this recipe is just a basic recipe, basic code to make sure it installs the package. Right? There's nothing else that I've written here. It just shows the package node, the action is to install. And if you can make sense of it, this also ties into the first demo that I showed, because it utilizes the OHI attributes to actually get here. Let me go to attributes now. So in my attributes file here, you will see that I've used the exact same OHI attribute that I was talking about earlier to determine the platform of the system. So the recipe will make sure it is installed. the attributes file that is pointing to that recipe will make sure the right package is used. So very straightforward code. If it's a CentOS platform, use the HTTPD package. Otherwise, use the Apache 2 package. Let's go back to this and let's try to upload the cookbook. So knife cookbook upload demo attributes. And now I have to give the cookbook path. So that will be cookbook path being /home. Let me just move this out of the way. /home. So I've uploaded the cookbook. Let's go and first let's see what, this keeps happening. Yeah. I'll now run a knife node show command to just see if it's the right, if the run list is making sense. So you can see here in this Ubuntu client, the recipe is obviously, we've pushed our cookbook there, the demo attributes cookbook and the default recipe. Let's check the same for the CentOS client as well. Great. Okay. So now let me SSH into the actual, this is my CentOS client. This is my Ubuntu client. Let me run the client runs here. Now I realize I'm running the client runs locally here, manually, sorry, is what I meant. But ideally, these will be scheduled. Let's kick this off. Let's do the same in our Ubuntu client as well. Let's give it a second. We're waiting for it to install the Apache 2 package, and there we go. We can check this by systemctl. We can see we have successfully installed our Apache 2 package, and it is active and running. So basically, recapping on what I've done is through a single attributes file, I made sure the installation recipe makes sense to both of the clients that require different packages. The third demo that we'll have for today is on the compliance phase. So compliance phase, think of compliance phase as this ability that attributes helps you get. Like you can use attributes to leverage this particular feature that we offer with Chef. So what it basically lets you do is it automatically executes compliance audits and views the result as part of the Chef infra client run. So you can replace the legacy audit cookbooks that you've been working on and work with your existing audit cookbook attributes. It's easier to set up for new cookbooks this way as well. Now you have to note that this feature only is a part of Chef Infra Client 17 or higher. So in case you guys have not updated for some reason, I would strongly suggest you guys do. Let's hop back to the terminal now. That's the wrong directory. Just navigate to my, yeah. So here I have a cookbook by the name My Cookbook. You can see I have an attributes file, and let me go there. my default.rb. So here you'll notice the first thing, the first attribute that I've used is to switch on the compliance phase, right? The first attribute is responsible for making sure this feature that I was talking about earlier is switched on. Next, what I've done here is I've fetched inspect profile directly from my automate. I'll show you guys, I'll log into my automate once again. I go to compliance and profiles. You guys can see that I have this profile. Let it load out for a second. So my profile that is existing here, the version and the identifier is what I'll be using. Of course, you can browse through any of the profiles that we already have, or you can upload your custom profile as well. That is how you would leverage your profile that is already existing in your automate machine. If I go here, I'll show you guys a screenshot of all the other ways you can do this as well. You can leverage a profile that is existing in your supermarket, your GitHub, through a URL, or even a local file. Go back here. So that was how you fetch the inspect profile. In my next attribute, I've written how the fetcher to be chef automate, just like how I said here. And lastly, my audit reporter will be chef automate as well. I want the results to be shown in my automate cookbook. Sorry, automate UI. Let me get out of here. Sorry. Let me upload this. I'm going to SSH to my client server, which is a Windows machine. So here, if I run the chef client, again, I have to mention it again that for the case of this demo, I'm running it manually, but ideally your chef client runs would be scheduled. And let's give it a second. It converges my cookbook. And there we have the results of our compliance run. Now, by default, it does show the results within the CLI itself. But as you guys recall, I had it configured in a way where it will give all of the results in my automate. So let me log in there. Oh, that shouldn't be happening. There we go. So if I go to my compliance, we have a compliance report ready here already. You can see it because I had mentioned it earlier for it to be for the reporter to be my chef automate UI. That's what we get here. The other ways of doing it is you can obviously CLI as your default. You can also have it populate a file and download a downloadable file, basically whatever you guys prefer. So I can obviously go through what went wrong, what are the past controls, what are the failed controls. And yeah, that's how you would leverage your attributes to sort of use compliance phase and run your compliance run within your infra, chef infra. Let me go back to the PPT. So that concludes our demos for today. The 3 technical demos that showed different use cases of how you can be using attributes to leveraging attributes to streamline your infrastructure management. And now I would like AB to take over and tell you guys about our latest development in Chef, which is Chef Courier. AB, are you here?
Hey, hi, thanks, Sarthak. Well, as most of you might be aware, that we recently launched Chef Courier, which is the all new platform by Chef for job orchestration across your entire IT fleet. Uh, we've been thinking about orchestration, and of course a lot of customers also repeatedly during our conversations raised this request of having an orchestration solution by Chef, which brings together uh, configuration management, compliance management, uh, application deployment, security management, all of these actions that Chef performs today, but to be able to orchestrate these actions based on different dimensions, that is what Chef Courier is all about. Right. So, like I mentioned, Courier is an amalgamation of a lot of functionalities and processes that you can flexibly perform. And fundamentally, there are three pillars to Chef Courier. That is the three dimensions of wherever, whenever, and whatever. I'll briefly talk about these dimensions. We have a lot of resources available in case you'd be interested in knowing more about Courier. Starting with wherever, like the word suggests, with the wherever dimension, you have complete control over where a particular change has to be rolled out. Which nodes? Is it a singular node? Is it a group of nodes? Or is it the entire fleet? This becomes particularly useful. For example, if there is a new vulnerability discovered that affects certain versions of Java, with the wherever dimension, what you can do is isolate the nodes that run that version of Java alone. And then when you have the patch ready, you roll these patches out to these nodes based on your requirement. That is the wherever part of it. It also allows you to roll out these changes either parallelly or sequentially, that is, after the completion of one batch, the next one begins, or in batches segregated in your ecosystem. Then comes the whenever dimension. The whenever dimension is the dimension of time. It allows you to run your jobs either immediately, or you can schedule them based on organizational policies. For example, a simple action like run uh, a compliance scan on all nodes every Friday of the week, something like that. That is the level of flexibility we're talking about. And it also facilitates event driven automation. That is, uh, do some actions need to take place for this particular job to run? So that is the level of flexibility that you will be able to achieve with Courier. And finally, whatever is basically what action is it that you want to be run on these machines, on your nodes. Is it a custom script? Are these operating system commands? Is it a Chef cookbook? Is it an inspect profile, a habitat package, an API by a third by some cloud provider, or even third-party tools and platforms that you can bring together with Courier? That these are the dimensions of Chef Courier that bring flexibility even for the most complex scenarios at scale. Yep. So talking about the key benefits of Chef Courier, what you as a customer can achieve by using Courier, right? Let me start from the left, right? Solve complex problems, that is speed plus security. What this means is, like we discussed in the previous slide, every dimension of a change rollout can be controlled. And what this does is, not only does it allow you to perform orchestration flexibility with flexibility, it also brings together the other capabilities that Chef has to make sure that not only are your deployments fast, they are secure, and all the configurations that you need for the application to be deployed successfully or a patch to be deployed successfully is in place. The next is reactive work made easy and efficient. Consider an example of a vulnerability discovered in your systems, right? What you'd want to do as an incident response measure is create patches, test those patches, and then deploy those patches to minimize the impact of this vulnerability, or let's say an attack in this case. Now, traditionally, that was hard to do with Chef because of how Chef clients used to check back with Chef servers and apply changes. But with ad hoc job orchestration, not only do you have control over what actions to perform, in this case apply a patch, you also have control over the targeting dimension as well as the timing dimension, like we discussed before. So reactive work like incident response or security measures, things like these, become very seamless with Chef Courier. Next is democratizing DevOps. With the launch of Chef Courier, what we also are doing is bringing Chef tools to a unified platform. In alignment with our broader vision, right? So you will notice once you try Courier, soon with incremental releases, you will notice the Chef platform introducing a UI. What this does is make sure that DevOps is for everyone. There are no individual teams or saviors that you have to rely on during critical emergencies or unplanned downtimes. So what this does is allows you to maintain business continuity because there are always people aware and informed and acting upon problems, while the responsibility is shared and distributed. So this is what democratized DevOps means, and an extension of this is tool consolidation. A lot of tools, fragmented tools in different teams. So multiple touch points to collect data and then correlate this data and draw meaningful insights out of this data is really complex. And we have been hearing this over and over again about how the use of multiple tools makes things more complex rather than simplifying these. And with our vision of Chef 360, the platform on which Chef Courier is built, what we are trying to do is bring people together into one tool, one source of truth for configuration management, compliance management, security management, edge automation, right? Network device management, and orchestration across all of these capabilities, coupled with visibility into what's happening in each and every node. So that is what we want to do with tool consolidation, and all of this, like I mentioned, comes with the Chef 360 platform, which is our vision for a comprehensive holistic DevOps automation platform. And Chef Courier is just the first capability built within the Chef 360 platform. That is a quick summary of Chef Courier and all the exciting things that we are doing. If you liked anything that you heard, or if you'd be interested in seeing how Chef Courier can perform orchestration in your DevOps ecosystems and make things easier for you, I'd encourage everybody to sign up for a free trial or a personalized demo to kick things off from there. That's all from me on Courier. I think we can open up now to discuss some questions that I see in the chat panel. Satak, do you want to discuss some of these questions?
Yes, let me pick one. I'll read out the question for you guys. In the case on OHI attributes, won't having so much data gathered affect the storage efficiency of the infra server? Is there a way to reduce or select particular OHI attributes that are collected? Okay, so I'll start off by saying yes, you are right, because I showed you guys. In fact, let me show you how much OHI actually collects the data for. Sorry. If I just run OHI, see the list just keeps on going. It's a lot of data that comes in. So yes, you are right. It is a it could be a problem if your infra server isn't scaled. But what you can do to combat that is there is this thing called block list, right? So where you can have, let's say you have you've deemed it yourself where all a few attributes are necessary. and a few of them are irrelevant to whatever it is that you want to do. A lot of them are irrelevant, let's say, in your case. So what you can do is edit your client.rb file, and it has you can use the code. I think it's just blog underscore automatic underscore attributes. You can create a list of all the attributes that you deem are irrelevant. So as I mentioned when we were talking about OHI as well, the Chef Infra client run, like it starts OHI at the start of every infra client run to determine the system states and everything. So because it's a huge chunk of storage, right? What you would like to have is basically selecting what you actually want to be stored. So a block list will help you in blocking all the irrelevant attributes that you have. And opposed to that, actually, just like block list, there is also something called allow list. Let's say the number of attributes that you want to block is way more than the actual attributes that you want to save. You can use the antonym of that of sorts, where it's allow list, where if you mention the attributes in the allow list, those are the only ones that will get saved, and all of the rest are just not saved every time a client run is initiated. So that is a way, that are two ways, in fact, that you can sort of optimize for making sure your infra server storage is not a problem. If that answers your question, I'm hoping it does. Let me see. I see another question. Can I call attributes in my recipe and use it to specify desired states? Yes. So sort of how what I showed in the first two demos, in fact. You saw in the second demo that you can easily just use an if statement and call the node attribute. Node attribute that will be populated from what I showed in demo one as the OHI attribute. You can just use attribute question mark is the code, like the word attribute question mark. For example, let's say you wanted to filter out in a recipe, you just wanted to do something to a particular EC2 node. What you would write is if you write it in your recipe, it would be if node dot attribute question mark and then EC2, whatever action it is that you want to do on your EC2 node, and end. And another way you can do that is if you have a separate attributes file in itself, it'll be the same. That is just node dot attributes question mark EC2, whatever it is that you want to do in your EC2 node, and point it back to the recipe. Hopefully that answers your question as well. I see a question for some reason I'm not able to expand it, but okay. I think these are two questions that I see. I see another about the audio. I'm sorry if the audio quality was a little off. Were you guys able to hear me throughout? Maybe if you can testify that.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. I don't see any other questions. If you guys have any, feel free to leave it in the chat box, or if not, you can always reach out to us as well. If you have a question that for some reason I can't see here, or if I haven't answered, we'll also follow up with you guys.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thank you,
Have a good day.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.